It's hard to believe, guys, but Tuesday is finally upon us, the XFL draft. I felt like this day was never going to come, but it's finally here. Almost 1,000 players in the draft pool. Think about like the the scouting, player development for the XFL. Just the job that they did with all of these showcases, the spring league, just finding guys to create this pool of high quality players. It's an impressive list. As the XFL released these names, throughout last week, I was pleasantly surprised of some of the names on the list. So we here at XFL Chalk Talk went through this list and kind of highlighted some guys that we personally were excited to see. Glessner, why don't you start us off with guys that really stood out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to quickly mention a couple and then go into the guy that I'm really, really fired up about.
Okay.
Some of the names that really stuck out to me, Cyrus Quandro. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school, went to Alabama. He was drafted, played for the Bills for a couple of years. DeMornay Pearsonell, he was a punt returner at Nebraska, former All-American. Excited to see what he can do. I also coached against him in high school. He was a lot better than anybody we had on the field, I can tell you that. And then when I looked over the cards as they released them and I saw the name, I saw a staple of running backs. I mean, really good running backs. So two of the names that stuck out before I get into my guy, Cameron Artis-Payne out of Auburn. He was a first-team All-SEC guy in 2014, I believe. And then Andre Williams, who won the Doak Walker Award in 2013 for Boston College, also stood out. But the guy that I am most fired up to see is Christine Michael. Used to be the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Averaged 4.3 yards a carry in his career for the Seahawks. He was the starting running back, like I said, for the Packers. He had a little bit of time, but it was only just, I believe, a couple months. But he was a second-round pick out of Texas A&M University. He was the running back when Johnny Manziel was there. And he had some injury history, but you know how the running back position is in the NFL, fellas.
Oh, the turnover is insane.
The turnover is insane. So if you tweak a hamstring and you're out for 2-3 weeks, I mean, you could easily be supplemented on the depth chart. Like I said, he averaged 4.3 yards a carry in his career. A physical runner that has surprisingly great breakaway speed. And again, he was released by the Colts in 2018. But I think he's a perfect guy, especially at that number one spot being picked by the DC Defenders to really be a dynamic player.
Is that a tease for the mock draft?
Might be a little bit of tease later. That might be a little bit of tease, but I get really fired up when I watch this guy run the ball when he's fully healthy. So
I don't get it, man.
I'm really excited to see what he can do in the
I was so high
XFL.
on him during his NFL career. Like, I always thought every year he was like that guy that always was mentioned, especially like in our fantasy football drafts, is like that breakout candidate. And it just never happened. I guess it was part because, like Gless said, just the turnover of running backs. He couldn't stay healthy, and then he just lost his opportunity. And sometimes that's just how it happens, especially at running back in the NFL. But the way that he runs, he's a physical power guy. He keeps his pads low. He is a guy that I could see being a 3-down back, and like Gless said, potentially a first-round pick in the upcoming draft.
Well, yeah, and Gless actually brought it up a little bit earlier. He talked about he had surprising speed. This was a guy who was an all-state track champion in high school, 100-meter dash. So the guy has wheels. It's not like he's a plotter by any means when we say he's a big physical guy. The guy has speed. He's fast. He's the complete package. It's just the NFL stands for not for long, and that's especially true for running backs.
I love that you mentioned Andre Williams as well. I mean, what a senior year at Boston College. He rushed for 18 touchdowns, over 2,000 yards. Just couldn't make it happen with the Giants, but he's someone I'm really interested to see. And it's like these stories, these redemption stories of guys that the talent's there. It's just they couldn't put it together, whether it's due to injury, inconsistent play. But now he has a chance for like redemption in the XFL, and he's a guy I'm super excited to see.
Yeah. Well, no, he's a guy that can run the ball. I mean, he can run the ball at a high level. He did it his rookie year with the Giants. He had 7 touchdowns, rushed for over 700 yards. But again, just like the problem with Christine Michael, I mean, there's so much running back talent that is going through the NFL. It's just so hard to keep a job. I mean, you got to be so dynamic. But I'm with you, Riley. I can't wait to see what he does in the XFL.
Yeah, I think there's when it comes to the XFL, there's opportunity that also meets scheme. And so, like, when the NFL transitions to, let's just be honest, the running back's not that important to the NFL anymore. And the talent you can find in the first round, you can find undrafted these days. So I think a person like Andre Williams that you want to have faith in to like go out there and like excel, I can find that talent any given day, any given draft, right? So I think as soon as you get hurt or as soon as you don't have the opportunity to excel, people like that, their opportunity is limited.
It'll be interesting to see how the XFL values running backs, because like we've mentioned earlier, there's some quality running backs in this pool of players. It's a strong group when you kind of break down the positions. So it'll be interesting to see where like these guys land in the draft, especially in the phases, because you're kind of forced to draft running backs, receivers in the first 10 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see like how it stacks, like wide receiver or running back, especially in the first round or two. I think will really kind of dictate how these coaches see running backs fitting into the rules of the XFL.
I think one of the other things to notice, guys, too, especially at the running back position, we talked about it a little bit earlier with the quarterbacks, but as far as marketability, right, one of the reasons that people are going to be tuning into the XFL are their really good college players that necessarily didn't get the opportunity that they either deserved or that they could have gotten in the NFL. So I think from a marketing standpoint, I think it's just another kind of check mark for the XFL. Like, hey, we've got some really good, talented guys here. Let's see if we can't get them more spotlight, more carries. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Hey, Glessner. So another running back that I had on my list, actually, that was not marketed as well in college is Cardon Johnson from James Madison University. And this is one of those running backs that he got injured twice with an Achilles injury throughout college. But as soon as he came back healthy, I mean, this guy had 265 yards against ECU, one of his first games back from being healthy, and a couple touchdowns. And it's players like that, in my opinion, that maybe they were hurt during college. Maybe they didn't have the exposure they needed in college. But as soon as they were healthy, like they excelled. And I believe a player like Cardon Johnson might actually do well in the XFL and make that transition into the NFL as soon as he's given the opportunity.
It's guys like that are just begging for opportunity. And that word opportunity is huge. Like they just need a chance to prove themselves. They're hindered by injuries. They're trying to get back. There's guys in another teaser in our mock draft. One of my picks is a running back that really had a good NFL career going, and then injury just totally derailed him. And that happens all the time. It's a teaser, man.
Say it, man. Say it.
Who's a guy that also stands out to you, Pastel?
I'll tell you what. So there's a few other players in my draft I would like to say would stand out. Is BJ Daniels. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback that played great in college, and he put up all the stats. He also played running back and receiver in the NFL. He just couldn't find a position that fit him. Tyree Jackson, 6'7", 250 pounds. He developed through his time in college, but just honestly, he probably needed another year, and he forgoed his senior year to jump to the NFL. When honestly, probably bad advice from his agent saying, "Hey, you need one more year to develop." Yeah. Sean Oakman, man, Sean Oakman.
That's your guy, Pastel. That's your guy, Pastel.
280 pounds. And people are like, you know what? Yeah, he's got the size, he's got the weight, but what about the talent on the field? Guys, he had 11 sacks, 25.5 tackles for loss his junior year of college. Guys, the guy has talent.
He's obviously one of the bigger names that are going to be in the draft from a defensive standpoint. Obviously, he had some legal issues. That's why he fell and wasn't drafted in the NFL. He was found not guilty on those charges, but we're not. So the XFL did their background checks. They did their due diligence. Oh my God, look at that monster of a man. But we're just gonna stick to football here. But yeah, this is a guy like right here. This highlight you're watching. This is Sean Oakman in the spring league, like the spring league, the league that the XFL is working with to test their rules out. So he's a guy that needs the redemption story.
As you get off the bus, who's the first guy you get off the bus with? It's a guy like Sean Oakman.
Sean Oakman's the guy.
Even if he's terrible at football.
And if you're the opponent and I see a guy like that, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try it again next week. Like
Pastel, he's also
just have
he's
him out for the
also
coin toss, right?
Yeah, have him out for that. You took my Ryan line.
Even if he's on the
my
bench.
line, Riley. That's right.
Yes.
Have him march out there and shake the referee's hand. You know what I mean? He's just gonna terrify everyone.
It's very interesting, man. A lot of the headlines have been offensive related for this league, so it is nice to see, a defensive player who's got some clout, who's got some reputation, who's got some skill that could really make a big impact.
I think it's a great transition into your guy, Kenny, because you have Sean Oakman, who's just a physical freak of nature, but couldn't get the rest of it together. And then you have your guy, who is kind of the opposite.
Yeah, Nikita Whitlock. Nikita Whitlock from Wake Forest. He's the antithesis of Sean Oakman. He's a nose tackle who's 5'10", 251 pounds. He was all ACC 2 years in a row.
That's what I do on Tuesdays. What is that? That's not a
Oh. What was that, 450 pounds? Goodness gracious.
He is just one ball of muscle. His whole body's a muscle, man. He's unbelievable. He had 18 tackles for loss, 9 sacks his senior year. The guy put up 43 reps at his pro day of 225 pounds. He's one of the strongest guys in the class, and he's very athletic. He actually played fullback in the NFL. He's a nose tackle in college, and he's going to be a nose tackle in the XFL, according to the press release that they sent out. But he actually played fullback for the Bengals, for the Giants in the NFL. So he's got a lot of athleticism. And Gless, talking about your playing experience a little bit, you were considered an undersized nose tackle in high school. What are some of the advantages of being strong but undersized at that position?
Yeah, well, not only is he strong, he's low to the ground, right? Low man always wins. That's what you'd say in offensive and defensive line drills, right? You get too high, the offensive lineman's able to get under you. But if you're so low to the ground and you've got a lot of power, it really makes it a nightmare for offensive linemen to block you. The other thing, too, is his speed. I mean, look at a guy like Aaron Donald. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald is a tad bit undersized, and that's why he fell when he did. But his speed is unbelievable, and that's exactly what Whitlock brings. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Not only is he extremely powerful and extremely strong, but he's extremely quick. I mean, you don't get, what do you have his senior year, 9 sacks, Kenny? Is that what you said?
9 sacks and 18 tackles for loss. And by the way, this is in the ACC, not like
you don't get
conference.
nine sacks as a nose tackle in a Power 5 conference if you're not quick, right? I mean, you just have to be extremely quick. So that's some of the advantages he really has going for him.
Well, and what's exciting, too, is he did that as, like, by far the best player on defense. Like, it wasn't like he played on a loaded defensive team. I mean, I being a Wake Forest fan, I can tell you firsthand, those were some pretty lean years for Wake, and he was about the only guy. So to do that against constant double teams is even more impressive.
Yeah. I mentioned like Sean Oakman. If Nikita Whitlock had Sean Oakman's physical talents, that dude would be like a top 10 defensive lineman in the NFL right now.
Well, and what's funny, his high school coach actually said when he was getting recruited, if he was 6'3", 6'4", he'd be the number 1 defensive recruit in the nation. So I'm excited, just to the league to allow guys who might not have the size or maybe even the perception of having lack of size to give them an opportunity.
Tweener guys.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, Ryan, who do you got, man?
So for me, it's a guy that I watched. I mentioned earlier in the show that I was a big AAF guy. I watched the Orlando Apollos quite a bit, and this dude just truck stick people the entire season, and that's Will Hill. He spent a lot of time in the NFL. He most notably with the Ravens and the Giants. He's a guy that he really reminds me of like a Cam Chancellor, and sometimes there may be lapses in coverage, but he loves to hit people. He loves to make plays. He had 3 touchdowns when he was a player in the NFL. He had some legal troubles, probably why he's not in the NFL anymore, but he got his chance at redemption in the AAF. He was one of the better players in the league, and this guy is a physical football player. So it's going to be exciting to see how he kind of fares in the XFL with the new rules and whatnot. But that guy is a monster on defense.
Yeah, he just brings it, man. I mean, just brings the physicalness that you would want out of a safety. That's why I'm excited to see him too, Riley. Like, I want to see some big hits.
Well, and he is definitely the prototypical player for how defenses are becoming today. That kind of hybrid, because he's not super athletic. He's
not athletic.
His
But
measurables aren't. I know on the field's different, but his measurables aren't super athletic. But he can play in the box. He can cover. He's that hybrid guy, like a Mark Barron type of player who could make a big impact.
It'll be interesting to see how he stacks up because, like we kind of covered, the athleticism, maybe not elite status. He has lapses in coverage sometimes. And now that the XFL is going to this more wide open style of football, how is he going to be able to hang with these quicker receivers, faster paced offenses? He's kind of more of your like pro style kind of football player, like more of your old school kind of safety where he likes to get in the box and just wreck people. He'll be able to do that, but not as much now, especially against these air raids, these faster paced run and shoot type of offenses where it's go go go, and with the shot or with the game clock being 25 to 30 seconds depending on what they say in the rule book. It'll be a much quicker pace. It'll be interesting to see how he fares with the new rules.
I'll be really interested to see how he plays against tight ends, right? Because that's generally what guys that are as physical as he is, those are generally the guys that will defend a Travis Kelce or a Zach Ertz, somebody like that. So as offenses, guys that come off the top of my head, offenses that Mike Riley may run in Seattle or Norm Chow may run in Los Angeles, right, may utilize kind of that hybrid H-back, flex out the tight end. And Will Hill's perfect to defend guys like that. Physical enough to beat him at the point of attack, but can still run with them in coverage.
Hey, guys, I don't want to take too long on these, but I did see two other names that kind of stuck out to me, and I'm just going to be very brief. Donnell Pumphrey, running back. We go back to how stacked the running back is. That guy's the all-time leader in rushing yards for the NCAA. Unfortunately, he got hurt after he got drafted by the Eagles and never really even got a shake in the NFL. And now he's here trying to work his way back. I think that's a huge get for the XFL, huge press, having like I said, the all-time NCAA rushing leader. And Roberto Aguayo, the kicker from Florida State, second-round draft pick. I don't think didn't he have a ridiculous, like he'd never missed an extra point in college and had all these ridiculous records. Lou Groza award winner. And then just mentally just checked out in the NFL, like literally got the yips. And I think what was so startling about him is he was a second round pick, which you hardly ever see from a kicker. And the way he fell apart, like it wasn't like he missed he missed a field goal here or there. And he just
missed every kick.
I mean, he missed everything to the point where he's now like an intern for the PGA. Like he's working for the PGA Golf Association. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he's overcome his mental demons and can rebound, because you really hope to see something like that. It'd be a really good feel good story.
So speaking of feel good stories, what about a guy named Jeremiah Spicer? And Glessner, I feel like you're gonna love a guy like this. A guy from Los Angeles, California. Honestly, he was thrown away in a trash can at one point by his mom. Ooh. This guy has the most heartfelt story I've ever heard.
Holy smoke. Yeah, I think it's going to be, if it works out, it's going to be one of the flagship stories that the XFL, I think, will let everybody know about, right? I mean, who doesn't love a feel-good story about
Which they've already started, by the way. They did a great piece on him when he was at the LA Showcase.
Yep.
But I just want to see him produce, man. Can you imagine if he's one of the best linebackers in the league? I mean, he's going to be all over ESPN and Fox. It's going to be a great story to watch. So I'm glad you brought that up, Pastel, because I'm really excited to see him play.
The one thing I noticed from his highlights was like, okay, my first thought is he good, or is this a heartfelt story? And the first thing I noticed is like, this guy has instinct. Like, you can't teach instinct when it comes to linebacker. And I know, Gleston, you can attest to that. Like, this guy is always around the football. And that's what, this might translate, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to coach a good nose for the football. You either have it or you don't. You can have all the physical attributes, but if you can't have that instinctual, you can't explain it, but you just go, right? You're always around the football. And that's what it appears he has. So I'm excited to see him play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If he's a hit on the field, it's awesome. But then at the same time, from a marketing standpoint, it'd be a grand slam for the league.
It's a theme, isn't it? Redemption story. Like we've been saying that over and over. Beating the odds. Like that's what this league is made for. Jeremiah Spicer is like the perfect. But like these guys, whether they're more well-known guys that we've seen in the NFL or guys like a Jeremiah Spicer that literally is just looking for a shot. He's looking for that chance to showcase what he's got. The odds have always been against him. He's not the only guy. We're going to be seeing stories like this, maybe not to that extent of Jeremiah Spicers, but we're going to be seeing other stories coming out in the coming weeks once the draft concludes and these players are allocated to teams. So it's going to be really interesting to see where he lands.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about it. And you can bet one thing, fellas, if he turns out to be one of the best linebackers in the league, Vince McMahon and the media production department is going to let everybody know about it, which is another beautiful thing about the XFL, man. It's going to be high quality when it comes to really showcasing players like that. So.
Yep. Hope so.
What's up, football fans? This is Riley from XFL Chalk Talk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all things XFL and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at XFL Chalk Talk.